I'm gonna skip the intro because I'm having some complications. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I'm having some complications with the intro, man. They be tripping. But welcome back. You know what I'm saying? We got the master teacher, the elder back with us, and we're gonna be breaking down the metaphysical dynamics when you're talking about the rabbit hole because it all corresponds with the geopolitical apparatus and the cosmological timeline that also corresponds with our genetic format. So we finna break it down tonight. We finna crack some codes. So everybody in the chat, welcome back to Elder, Rod Hayes. So everybody in the chat, put the rice bowls and put those apes in the chat. Yeah, we got a lot to discuss tonight. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Where you want to start at? You got all these geomagnetic energies coming to the planet. You got Elon Musk talking about the rabbit hole and how the rabbit is out the hat. You got all the stuff that's taking place with the penny that's out of circulation. There's a lot of shit going on. So where we finna start at tonight? You know what I'm saying?
Well, the first thing we might make mention of is the internet was like out early in the morning in multiple places. People were reporting internet outages.
Facts. Yep.
When they do stuff like that, that's a tester to see what the reaction gonna be, right? And they judge by the flow of the algorithm what the reaction gonna be.
Okay.
Right. When I did a Young Elder the other day, we was talking about the green aura that was around the earth for that returning love energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the earth was vibrating at the heart chakra. When we got done with that class, the next day it was violet, crown chakra.
Yep.
Right. So we hit the nail on the head because when you go from the heart chakra straight to the crown chakra, that's what you call the heart link to the heavens.
Fact.
So then we got the sun got a big old butterfly symbol in it, looked like a reverse Batman symbol.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. Butterfly is the symbol for transformation. So they telling us that there's a transformation in progress based off the recent solar activity. And remember, we was getting blasted by solar storms last week, and the Schumann resonance been off the chain. And this is why we seeing these color shifts in the Aurora Borealis. If I can pronounce it correctly, I always butcher it.
Yeah.
But the lights, the northern lights, was being seen in southern states in the United States, which is rare. Which means it's a large mass coronal interference in the Van Allen belt, right? And it's the gamma rays that turn it green, right? And then it's the ultra, I think it's called ultra gamma rays that goes into your purples and reds, right? But we talking now, we not root chakra, we heart chakra, crown chakra. So we got a lot of stuff going on, and now we got to unpack what is it telling us. Because the whole thing is about, we see these stellar events, solar events, we see the Schumann resonance events, we seeing this political stuff playing out. And, they always call a new field of study the rabbit hole.
Yep.
When our first introduction to the rabbit hole in most people's childhood is Alice in Wonderland.
That's a fact. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put something up for you.
So Alice sat on a mushroom, psilocybin. And she seen the rabbit, the white rabbit.
That's a fact.
Right? When she seen the white rabbit, she took her down into the rabbit hole, which was her adventures of Alice in Wonderland. Wonderland is another way of saying your subconscious realm.
That's a fact.
Because the psilocybins opens up the subconscious realm so that you can consciously process it. That's why they call it hallucinations.
And then, not only that, the rabbit in itself is also a representation. When you get into the esoterics, the rabbit hole can be associated with Ophiuchus. So that's when you get into, the number 67. They talk about the number 67 is pretty much the most intrinsic definition all throughout the year of 2025, because it's the resurrection of the 13. So when you go down the rabbit hole, you're actually connected to yourself to the womb of creation, which is also associated with Ophiuchus, like I said, because I think Ophiuchus is in between November 29th into December 17th. So there's a resurrection and a rebirth energy here on the planet, and they telling you within the political infrastructure, because you ever seen that video when Donald Trump, he kept on talking about he's building the ark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ark in itself is also a representation of the global turning point that's connected to Charlie Kirk, which is the fall of the church. So the royal ark in itself is a representation of a resurrection process, because it coincides with the 47 problem of Euclid. So the 47 in the ark coincides with Noah, right? So Noah, when you break down the word from the etymological standpoint in ancient Hebrew, it means the mind. Noah means mind, and then you got the arcs, or the angels of light, coming down to the planet that hits the mind. So it's actually talking about a form of mind science technology when you get into the 47. And matter of fact, I'm gonna pull this up for you, because I remember we was on the phone the other day, and I was telling you about the movie Sneakers. This movie came out, I think it was in 1984, that also coincides with the timeline with Donald Trump, with Donnie Darko talking about the bunny, because in the movie, not the movie, but the book, Baron Trump's Adventure, he was stuck in a fixed position reality in 1984 when this movie came out. And then you see it got XRP when I was doing my independent research. And then it's at the security code, you see the 47 right here. That also coincides with the Royal Ark of Freemasonry, that also coincides with the global turning point. And then you also got to watch the damn movie. There's a reason why they put this movie back on Netflix, Ready Player One, because the inception of the destruction that took place when you're talking about the Great Purification, it started in the year of 2027. That's when the world ended in the movie. But it was certain dates they had from November, I think it was from November 17th to the 29th. It was something that took place within the movie that also coincides with the timeline that we're in right now. So that's why I keep telling people the movies is also acclimated to the timeline, because it's actually telling an esoteric story. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of stuff to look at when it comes to that.
Then you look at the position of Hollywood and DC on opposite sides of the land, it becomes critical to the understanding of what a political satire is. Most of us don't know that all they doing in DC is political satire. That's right. Fact. That's why you see stuff like this.
Yep. This is the guy. Yep.
Yeah. So this is telling you about the satire, because if you look here, you see Elon Musk is dressed like what?
A bunny rabbit.
A jester.
Yep.
He dressed like a magician, a jester, a court entertainer. Right? But then you see the molecular symbol for the bunny up there that comes from the adrenochrome. Right? Now, the rabbit out the hat mean exposing the magic trick. Facts.
Babylonian blood magic.
Yep. So when they pull the rabbit out the hat, they saying this is the magic trick. So they're showing you the trick, the deception.
And the deception is in itself is connected to, the de facto corporation in itself, because all the corporations, as what I call the middleman, which is the devil, which is a form of instant gratification, they use it as a mechanism, like we talked about last year when we broke down the blood magic. So blood magic coincides with the rabbit. So when you follow the rabbit, you're going to follow the corporations that actually extracts the energy from, humanity, as far as like what we call the loosh, which is a form of human data. Because that's the most intrinsic resource on the planet is human data. That's what the archons have to feed on. So that's why I was, I had this theory, you know what I'm saying, you already know about the whole 1934 when they created Social Security and things of that nature, and they created the QC numbers and the community uniform security and stuff. When it comes to that, that's when, they turned us into humanoid real estate. So it was actually one of those things where the corporation in itself is being used as a catalyst to cause the reset by eliminating humanity, because in order to reset the debt, you have to eradicate, about 7.7 billion people. That coincides with the Georgia Guidestones when they said they want to maintain humanity at 500 million, even those, they got destroyed also.
Yeah, that was because their plan failed.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing that we got to do to show that they plan failed is get rid of the stones. You didn't win, so you can't say what we gonna do on Earth because you lost.
Facts. Yep.
Right. So another thing about that rabbit and that blood magic, right? Remember, the rabbit is the symbol for fertility.
Yep.
Tied to Ishtar.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The symbol for one of the symbols for Ishtar is she have a statue and she's covered in mammary glands all the way down to her ankles.
Mm.
Right. So that's the mother that feeds the nations.
Okay.
It's a representation of a sacerdotal seat. The irony of it is you brought up 67. That's Empress Redbird's birth year.
Oh, wow. And she got the allodial title to the land, right?
Right. But that's they surrender. Okay. The loyal title don't mean nothing to us. It means something to them.
Right. Because we don't deal with paper.
Right. So in order for them to acknowledge her blood, right, they got to give her the paperwork. They letting them know that we know who you is. Let us finish cleaning this up, and we gonna make sure everybody else know who you is too. But we first have to give you this recognition so you'll know that your work was being done.
So what does that kind of fall in line with the whole 1776 thing? Because they came out with the last circulation of the penny that also coincides with Philadelphia, because that's where they stopped it at after 232 years, which is an anagram for 322, which is the what's that, skull and bones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So one of the things about 1776, that's the Boston Massacre. Right. That's when they harvested the blood of Crispus Attucks. Then they got to do their conjure work on it in order to turn it into ink. When they turn it into the ink, it becomes self-actualizing. They call it the first blood of the righteous in a conflict. They always have to let you know who the first blood of the righteous, or the person that was the rightful heir whose blood was used for the conjure, has to be always kept in the forefront. So they gave us this fanciful story about some half African that who set it off in the American Revolution with the Boston Massacre. And if you really think about it, this is why the Boston wear red socks, because they was walking through the massacre, the blood of the massacre.
Wow. And so is that part of the Red Shoe Club and the Pilgrim Society?
So the Red Shoe Club comes from Europe, from Spain.
Okay.
And the shoes that was originally being made, that was dyed red, was made out of human skin. And that's what made the leather for the red shoe so valuable. The red bottom shoe is a different shoe. It represents people who walked across the bloody floor.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So they walk across the bloody floor, they leave a red footprint, which is a bloody footprint. Only it's not a footprint, it's a handprint. And it's only one place to find it. On the indigenous rebellion, where they put the red paint across their mouth because of the colonizers that was stealing the women in order to impregnate them to infiltrate bloodlines. So that's what you see when you see those girls, those native girls. right, with the red hand on their face. That's what they talking about. They talking about the kidnapping of the Native women. Those women were brought over here as Huns, but when they got over here and was re-educated, they became Native Americans.
I'm glad you brought that up because that kind of reminds me of that volleyball symbol when you're talking about what took place with the little people in DC.
Mm-hmm.
And they had one of the symbols was of it looks like a hand. It looked like a hand that was covered in blood, and they put it over a soccer ball or a volleyball. And I think
That's
it was
the frazzle drip.
Yeah. That.
That's a frazzle drip. That come from Tom Hanks in Lost, I think was the name of the movie.
Yep.
Right, so, and you see Ellen DeGeneres wearing it on her hoodie, and some people wearing it dressed as that in like ward shows, dressed up like frazzle drip.
Yeah, they do all that. It's like transgressive. It's like high end fashion, but they use like biological fluids and biological parts of humans.
It's actually called horror fashion.
Right.
If you look up horror fashion, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a whole genre. But in this case, the secret society is telling on somebody without telling the general public that they telling on somebody. They just start, the imagery pops up.
That's a fact.
We got to be savvy enough to say, what are these people telling us with this frazzle drip handprint, bloody handprint? So most people don't know what frazzle drip is. They don't know about the Podesta files and the insurance policy. Right? They only concerned about this dude right here. He was a Mossad CIA asset.
That's a fact.
He replaced somebody who passed away from old age. The only reason why we know that is because when they went through the videos on Epstein Island, they go all the way back to the 30s on the island. So who was in Hollywood in the 30s that you can go back and you can track it? All the ones that didn't want to play ball end up getting blackballed out of the industry.
That's a fact. And you know, another thing that's crazy about this, 2 videos ago, and this is just based on my independent research and my own, conspiracy theories or whatever, just like I tell people all the time, in order to beat the matrix, you got to go within the matrix in order to get out. That's when you go down the rabbit hole. But the rabbit hole in itself is also being embedded inside of the simulation so much to the point where you're able to extract the information. So what I'm saying is that, within the video game, I said 2 videos ago, I said that there's going to be a link and there's going to be an emulation of what took place on Epstein Island, and they're putting it inside the video game of Grand Theft Auto. And there's going to be a mission in the game where it's going to show you the true link, and it's going to show you the actual list of what took place. And it's supposed to be some hackers that's putting the link inside this video game that's supposed to be coming out in November 19th of 2026. But they pushed it back the day after I said that they're going to put the link in the game, and they pushed it back from the spring of 2026 to the November, literally the next day. So it's kind of because you play video games, Rod?
No.
Now this is important because in the last Grand Theft Auto, they show you the Statue. I think it's Grand Theft Auto 4 or 5. The Statue of Liberty is actually Hillary Clinton. And then when you go inside, it shows like the heart beating or whatever, which is also a representation of a corporate infrastructure that placated on humanity, based in blood magic and things of that nature. So it shows you that. So it seems like there's a mockery that's taking place within the political apparatus when you're talking about the new republic that's coming from the Trump administration. It seems like they're working with, a lot of these video game videographers, and they put a lot of the information inside there. So I've been looking into some of that stuff because there's a mission in the game that actually it shows you the emulation of Epstein Island.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff they put it in various different places.
Mm-hmm.
By me not being a gamer, I won't see a lot of what they put in the games.
Right.
Right. But I used to watch a lot of movies growing up. So a lot of the stuff I see now was in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You brought up the year 1984. You remember where you brought it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up for you right now, Rod. I got you. Where is it at? Did I put it in here? I thought I did. I can bring it up, but I know that it's actually talking about a totalitarian order in that movie.
Okay, so the year 1984 is what you were talking about earlier in the show. You
Yeah.
admit. Okay, now the year 1984 also is what George Orwell's book was designated as 1984,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then George Orwell's book, his teacher was Aldous Huxley,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote A Brave New World, right? And one of his socialites, Aldous Huxley's socialites, who also was good friends later on with George Orwell, name was Ayn Rand, and she wrote the Atlas Shrugged.
Mm.
Right? Now, there's also 1984, which is Rex 84, Readiness Exercise,
Okay.
1984. So it's all connecting to a time frame.
Yep.
Right? So when you go back and look what was going on in 84, Reaganomics.
Yep.
Reaganomics was going on in 84 and Project Hope, where they created Focus Hope to give government stored food to the public that was having food problems.
Mm.
Ronald Reagan took office. He said that he had no idea of the level of hungry people it was in America when they got all this food that they have in storage to feed the American people.
Mm.
They took a percentage of it out because it's primarily for the military use, but it's an excessive surplus enough to feed the American public for up to a year before it starts to run low. It's 300 and something million people, almost 400 million people in America. So they got enough food in reserves, canned and stored, air sealed and packed tight, waiting for distribution. Whose job is it going to be when the grocery stores close down to distribute the food rations to the public?
Shit, it should be the church. Shit.
Church is going to be gone.
I know, but shit, they're supposed to be a storehouse.
So in the time of crisis, it activates a joint committee of National Guard, FEMA, and several other government agencies to mobilize the National Guard's troops to set up warehouses to distribute the food to the people of the certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why you got Michigan National Guard. People in Detroit don't know it, but they sitting right there waiting to be deployed. They already here.
Mm.
Chicago know they there. They've been filming them coming in. Memphis know they there. DC know they there. Philly know they there. Right? LA know they there. San Diego know they there. San Francisco know they there. Right? So most of the people is unaware that if they can maintain their cool in this crisis that they finna manufacture, we not supposed to give it no thought. Let the government shut down. Fuck the government. That's how we got to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Close it down. Shut it down. Let's see what you're going to do next. Because if we don't put a challenge to them to produce, they going to keep on running games on us. Cyclic games.
Mm-hmm.
They run them in a loop.
Yep. And I'm glad you brought up the loop because that coincides with my 589 research when you're talking about the bearable God, because it represents the transmutation process of deviate from the corporate legal fiction by going back into natural law, which is common law for the people. So that's why I was saying, by way of the law of reciprocity, everything has to come full circle, which is 360 degrees of the closing of the age that was connected to the maritime law. So that's why I said we in a time of rebuilding right now, because everything within their infrastructure has to collapse. Whether if it's a synthetic reset or if it's something that's being extracted from the cosmos and Mother Nature. So,
right.
And I showed you some of this right here the other day. I think it was the top one, because the bearable God is supposed to be playing Donald Trump. So it's really just showing you. It's really just kind of like based on the timeline. It's showing you the.
Is that supposed to be a bear?
Yep, it's a bear. Yep, it's the bearable God.
That's the symbol for Cali too.
Oh, for Cali,
California.
Yeah,
California symbol is the bear, and you notice on the tip of his nose is a 5-point star.
Wow. I'm just now peeping game off that. See, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, you can go pull the California flag up and see it. It's right there on the flag.
Let me see if I can pull it up. My computer, I need to get me a different computer. My shit's slow. Hold on, let me see.
Now, while you pulling it up, most of us don't know that's what you call an open public contract between 5 tribes.
Okay.
The symbol that they all have in common is the bear totem. We used to call them the bear clans.
Facts.
Then they gave us something called Bornstein Bears. 3 little bears. All it is to keep the bear totem active in the mind of the people so that the bear clan can reclaim their birthright.
Man, I'm glad you brought that up, because check this out, right? Because I got this in here too. Because I know Russia, they just been found. Where is it at? Yeah, here we go. Russia is also they represent the bear as well when you get into like the metaphysics of the Bible or whatever. But it talks about the Russian military spyship, so that coincides with the movie Red 9. Like, remember we broke that shit down too.
Yeah, but see, you got to know where this Russian ship at. Remember the Russian ship that went to Cuba about 2 years ago? They was dropping off prisoners to Gitmo. Everybody keep thinking that this is only America that's cleaning up the land. It's going on all over the world.
That's a fact. Is this it right here, Rod?
Yeah, that's the bear.
Okay.
Now, if you look up, you see the 5-point star?
Yeah.
Because of the 5 tribes. Now, the reason why they use the 5-point star, the point being each tribe is they all matriarchal tribes.
Mm-hmm.
The bear is the chief being instructed by the women, the 5 matriarchal tribes. They got chiefs. Each tribe got a chief, and then they get together. The one who qualified to lead whatever they doing as a collective is the chief that takes the lead. Right. And that's why you see guys walking on the green grass. Cali is desert.
That's a fact. Yep. People ain't gonna catch it.
That's because they represent law land, land law, not admiralty law. The only reason why they came up with a flag is because some people came from Europe with the law of the flag. So we went from totem poles and wampum belts to flying flags too.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to the bear. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it shows you within the art. I keep telling people, man, like the algorithm is telling you every time. They tell you in every movie. They tell you in every magazine, like what time it is, and motherfuckers just think it's entertainment. And I know you've seen or heard about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is most likely one of those land masses that's emerging from under the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even when I get into my own independent research in itself, and it's actually connected to the ancient, energy grid system, which is what we call the tectonic cycle. So you're going to get a lot of, sedimentary rock formation. And then they were saying that, the people that live within that geographical area of Zealandia, it was the Melanesian people, and it was also the people that was connected to Lemuria, which is also connected to the Lost Continent of Mu. I got that book, Lost Continent of Mu. So it actually talks about New Zealand within that publication. It doesn't talk about it in the article too much, but it also talks about New Zealand and how they were.
So pull up a map of the South Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
You're going to notice that at one time it was a land bridge from the South Pacific to Hawaii.
All right, South Pacific Ocean. Everybody put them rice bowls in the chat and them apes in there. All right. Can you hear me, Rod?
Yeah.
Okay, I was making sure you can.
I was checking out the comments.
Okay.
While you were doing that.
Hey, okay. Are you breaking that down? What's your cash app so I can pin it up in there? In here.
It's $SIKAPE.
Okay.
Somebody sent me something and they said this ain't them because it's a 01. 01 is my PayPal. My PayPal is Rod Hayes at PayPal SICAPE01. But my Cash App is just SICAPE.
Okay. Okay. And PayPal is Rod. What is it?
Rod Hayes at SICAPE01. Or you could just PayPal at SICAPE01. It's gonna pop up either way.
All right. All right. So everybody bless the elder, man, because he be dropping some knowledge, some stuff that we've never heard before. But all right, here we go.
All right, let's zoom in on this map on the left side where you see Australia at.
You said zoom in.
Yeah.
It only let me go so far. It ain't let me.
Okay, if you look right there, you see Indonesia.
Right.
All right, now Hawaii is on there, but you can't see it. It's to the left of Indonesia. I mean, to the right of Indonesia in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if you look where these islands, if you pay attention, the islands have a pattern. That was a land bridge.
Mm.
It was a land bridge, and then it left it used to lead all the way up into the Southern Asia, Southeast Asia, right? Around by Japan and Korea and all that stuff. Now, if you go to the ocean pictures, giant city under the ocean of Japan, it'll show you a city with giant steps. Because that was one of the casualties in the wars in the Anunnaki wars.
Mm. Mm.
They sunk this city. That was one of Inky's major cities for the Anunnaki, especially the ones that was huge.
Mm. You know what that sounds like? You ever watched the movie Ewok Adventures? It came out in the 1970s, like 79, 78.
If I came out back then, I probably watched it, but I just probably haven't seen it in so long.
Yeah, it shows you how they had the big steps like you was talking about, and they had these big Nephilim beasts, and they had the indigenous tribes, and they had little bears, they had the little Ewoks, but if you really look at the garments of the Ewoks, they were wearing indigenous attire. They had the feathers and everything, but they was using a lot of the trees that went up into it that basically pierced the firmament. They used the trees as a mechanism to take down those big giants like you were talking about in those wooded areas. So there's a lot of truth to that when it comes to the ontological artifacts.
Yeah, and they say that when this was the land bridge, that's when the people moved to Australia.
See, is that kind of with the Tasmanian people?
Because Tasmania right next to Australia.
And And they in the Tasmanian Devil, and you know what's crazy, because the Tasmanian Devil, he looks like an Ewok. That's how the Ewoks actually look.
If you really but the Ewoks was the Whinies.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right.
And when they made it with the Twa, they lost their hair and became leprechauns and gnomes.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Look, you remember all of those people that Malachi showed us? The Flugerides, the Deros, the Teros.
Uh-huh.
They was all given a drop of blood to clean up the great debauchery. That's why they're here. They came here as royal families from Enlil-controlled systems to offer a drop of their blood to clean up the genetic defect, because it wasn't going to be done in time with just us. Mm-hmm. Right? So now you see the ones that look like Chewbacca. Yeah. What they call Wookiees.
Yep.
When they made it with the humans, they still hairy. They just not as hairy as they was.
That's a fact. Hey, and a lot of them used to work with indigenous tribes. In fact, the Yaqui wore the Yeti, or what they call Bigfoot. Bigfoot was actually working in tandem with indigenous people. They used to,
they still do. The Bigfoot, you can't catch. The only reason why it's hard to catch Bigfoot is because they can hear you coming by your thoughts before they can hear you coming by your movement. That's humans' minds are loud to psychically sensitive beings that talk in telepathy. We won't shut the F up, and they can't stand it. But most people let their mind just do stuff, and they call it thinking, but it's not thinking. The mind is untamed. This Sakuma, monkey mind. Right? And that's what the whole story of the Sun Wukong and Hanuman's journey to the West and Sun Wukong, the 10 Buddhist scrolls, it's the same story.
That's a fact.
It's teaching the person how to tame the monkey mind. When we find somebody who has tamed it, they will label him with a Naga's label. Once he's labeled with a Naga's label, your monkey man can't stop watching for the wisdom. They're using the primitive, native, natural instincts of a monkey. And a monkey can be riding on the elephant back and know where the snake at in the grass. When the snake moves off the dirt road or the dirt path, the monkey can still sense where the snake is at because it's his biggest predator. So they don't have to physically see the snake. The monkey know where the snake at after he's seen him the first time. That's why they got a specific call that the monkey put out, and they call it the serpent call. They alerting the other monkeys that it's a serpent in the area. It's a very distinct call. All monkey species have it, except humans. Unless we just forgot how to listen for it. Right? Because we all know somebody, when somebody come along and they'll tell you, don't trust so-and-so, he's a snake.
Facts.
And we ain't that we don't trust him, is now we gonna watch him.
That's a fact. Because
we need to determine if he's a snake. What if the person that told you was the real snake and they lied on somebody? Only observation could distinguish the two in the human form. We got the traits. We mammalian, reptilian hybrids. So we can play both sides from the middle. As long as we don't take sides, we can see both sides.
That's a fact. And have you seen that new movie, Predator Badlands, yet?
I haven't seen no new movies in a while. The last new movie I seen was Sinners, and I just seen that recently.
Oh yeah, I forgot you told me that. Well, in the movie, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get the gist of it. In the movie, it really shows you, the emulation of the Enki, Anu, and Enlil story. And they had Thor and they had Dek and Quay. And Dek, he was banished to a prison planet called Planet Jenna. And Jenna, when you get into ancient Hebrew, is the Valley of Hinnom, which is the realm of purification and judgment. So he was banished to a parasitical planet to look for the callus. But the callus in itself was basically the embodiment of dark matter energy. It was a corporeal intelligence that wasn't able to be manipulated unless it was in a cryogenic state. And within the movie, they show Ashtar Command, the Pleiadians, they show the Pleiadian light lock on how they use cryogenic technology to lock down the catalyst. So that's another way they're basically telling us that they're using technology. Hold on, sorry. Hold on real quick. My bad. Hold on, my bad, Rod. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. We good.
I shit, my damn screensaver went on, but they were showing you how the catalyst in itself is a non-corporeal intelligence. It's an intelligence that can't be manipulated unless it's in a cryogenic state, and that's how she was able to defeat the catalyst within the movie. Is with what me and you call light code lockdown that's connected to the silver key.
So if you want to know how it works, if you can get that screen back up you just had.
Yeah, I got you. Hold on.
We can go into a little bit of the light lock because you're showing the imagery of the mathematical formula.
Mm-hmm. Everybody put the rice bowls in the chat. Put the apes in the chat. All right, let me see. Where is she at? All right, here we go.
Okay, you see that top one on the left? The top one on the left.
Yeah, the Earth magnetic field.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that's the Van Allen belt.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, you see that it's 3 major circles.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then you have circles in circles coming from the center of the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Concentric circles to the center.
Mm-hmm.
You see it?
Yeah.
Okay, now pause that thought. The one right under it shows the torsion field that's being used to project these 3 points of convergence in the first one. Because it has to be done inside a torsion field. Right? Now, when you go to the bottom one where it looked like 2 cells separating, that's what it looked like before you put it around the orb in the middle.
Okay.
When you put it around the orb in the middle, the light is going to flip it to the side. Those 2 circles is going to come out from the center. It's going to look just like the top. Right? That's the infinity loop.
Wow.
They trap you in a time space continuum. Now you're relying on time because of this layout. Okay, now the Earth has a natural positive and negative pole, or they call it North and South Pole. You need both poles to project their own individual. What's the word for that magnetic field called? It's a certain name for it. But once it's generated, now by feeding it the light from the sun, the radiation from the sun, it's now self-sustaining. Right? Now, the Earth and the sun is naturally, they gonna follow the laws of nature. At some point, the physical Earth went into a hibernation. Right? It goes into a hibernation to reset. We called this hibernation period the Ice Age, which was a nuclear winter. This Ice Age, then Earth emerges and sends a distress signal to the solar orb at the center in the form of a Schumann blast. The solar orb picks up the frequency, internalizes it, processes it, and sends the Earth back a response. You need to heat up from the inside. Now they calling it global warming.
How about that? Because we agree. Because that's what happens when you have the vibration of dynamo speeding up the plasma vortexes on the planet. So I'm glad you brought up that the reason I brought this up because it shows you from a neurological standpoint of how this corresponds with, you know, our neurological faculties when you're talking about the movie Predator Badlands, because the monad in itself, when you look at Earth's magnetic field, you got this this dial right here, but the monad in itself represents Najor, and the two hands represents Enki and Enlil. So that's why I was saying, as far as like the movie, the catalyst was a representation of a form of quintessence that acted as a neuron fibers that brings both hemispheres of the brain together, which is Enki and Enlil. So that's why I was saying, like, everything that corresponds like with consciousness has the ability to manipulate everything that's connected to the magnetic field of Earth, because the magnetic field of Earth is tethered connected to our consciousness to the point where you have solar flares spitting off at 90-degree angles from the galactic plane, which makes you an El or Elohim, because the El was nothing but in a 90-degree angle.
Okay, now I'm glad you was able to put it in them terms, because I've been telling people for the longest, stop reading Enki and Enlil as people. Start reading them as a frequency of energy.
Facts.
And people don't get it, but the reason why you read them as a frequency of energy instead of people, because the frequency will pop up in places you didn't expect it to, which shows their signature on our parts of our society. This is how I can tell you all of these squared off cities has been they've been militarized zones, relayed out according to military control measures. That's Enlil. The concentric circles, like those scalar waves coming off the Earth, forming that torsion field, that's Enki will operate in that circle, because the Enki energy is closer to the balance of nature from the masculine. Enlil's energy is the deviation from the laws of nature of the masculine. Right? So you got balanced masculine energy and erratic masculine energy, which is what we're looking at on the right. Right? Two people.
That's same story. I keep telling people that it's everything is the algorithm. They talking about DNA and neurological upgrades. That's why they had so much damn radiation, solar transmission that was coming to the planet, and everybody was getting headaches. You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, pressure in itself makes diamonds. So those solar transmission that's hitting the mind, which is Noah, the arc, a flood of consciousness, is going to activate those apatites, those calcites, and those magnetites, and those dendrites. So, like I said, it's a part of, you know, a part of the process, because it's one of those things where the year of 2026, which is the year of the fire horse, is going to be the precursor to the great separation between the lamb and the sheep. Well, I mean, the lamb and the goat. And the reason that is because it's a separation of consciousness, because the consciousness in itself, because, you know, they even talk about in the CIA documents, the conscious energy grid. The conscious energy grid is going to manipulate, you know, the electrical grid in itself so much to the point where that's what's going to cause the separation. Damn, I did it again.
Ain't no problem. But see, that's also what we call in the 100 monkey effect, right? And then it's called, as we move into the new full swing of the new era, that's the event horizon. Going through the black hole, then you had a point of no return. You can't go back now. You're too far into this game. Right? Now, remember, we caught between political satire and Hollywood theater. DC and Hollywood, political satire is fake. The political satire is a play called Plato's Republic, recycled over and over from different types of political applications, from communism to socialism, and none of them don't work. They're not designed to work longer than like 250 years. That's why they keep saying every 250 years, the world powers change.
Yeah, I'm going to show you something. I'm glad you brought that up. I got to bring the slides back up. I'm glad you brought that up, because it showed. I've been seeing that number 250 a lot. I've been seeing that a lot. And I put it, there's a reason. I'm glad you brought that up, because I definitely put it, I made some slides for that. All right. Hey, they said I don't look like you. My bad if I don't look like you. I tried my best.
Mhm. It's close enough.
I try to do what I could.
That's how AI see me.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Where's that 250 at? So they talk about it right here. It's got the birthday cake around it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, it tells a timeline. It's a story.
Well, the 1776 contract was a 200-year contract.
Mm.
But remember, 1812 gave them an extension to 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, after 2012 is where the work started to transition to the new government. So a couple things that they had to do that they did. They had to recognize that 400-year Bible contract. That's the white man's burden. What they call the law of discovery, the doctrine of discovery, the white man's burden. So they did the 400-year recognition in the Senate, the satire, or Congress, whatever the hell. One of them, Washington D.C. They passed a vote to recognize the 400-year captivity. Then they did a ceremony. Trump held the Bible upside down in front of a boarded up church. And Nancy Pelosi tore the Bible on the Senate floor, tore it in half, right, on the same day. Republicans and Democrats. So when they did that, that was the end of the Bible contract that was the sacrifice of the first blood of the righteous. Now, they also passed before they passed the UNDRIP on the United Nations floor, and then they passed the United States Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, which says pretty much the same thing in 2014, I think it was. Right? Then we had the ceremony to stake a totem pole in D.C. to reclaim the land from the Salvage Authority. The Salvage Authority was the Crown of England.
That's a fact.
Okay, now, once we did that, we reclaimed that 10 square miles as part of tribal territory. According to the Indigenous Rights Act of the United States and the United Nations, the indigenous people have a right to govern all indigenous land. Show me some that ain't.
Exactly.
So now they didn't recognize us, but it's only one way to secure the recognition: oral tradition. Both documents talk about the oral tradition. And it's not a coincidence that one is in the 13th chapter of the UN UNDRIP and the other one is in the 31st chapter of the UNDRIP. And then it's in something similar in the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. Right? 13 is the Queen Mother Seal. 31 is the mirror flip. So on both sides.
Damn, I'm glad you brought that up because somebody in the chat, they said that July 4th of 2026 is 250 years. I didn't know. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So it was supposed to end, the contract was supposed to end it in 1976 at the bicentennial celebration. Because of the War 1812 and they got an extension. This is why in the Fall of America, Elijah Muhammad said the devil got an extension. Nobody know what he was talking about. How the hell did the devil get an extension? Because we took their ass back to war. They telling us that the War 1812 was something other than an indigenous uprising. That's not, it was exactly an indigenous uprising. We rose up and decided to take the land back and broke the treaty. So it reset the treaty. Started them all over for 200 years. And this is why you had Martin Luther King doing nonviolent protests. The protest was not to overthrow the government, undermine the government. It was to wake the people up to the fact that we don't need the government.
Right.
They're not here for us. They have nothing to do with us and they don't care about us.
So you want to get into some questions from the chat?
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm gonna put up some questions for you because I don't want to overextend your time. I like to be respectful of other people's time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But me and you can overload people with information and they leave with a headache.
I know, right? Yep. Oh. All right, here we go. Let me go to the chat real quick. Yeah, hit Rod, what I'm saying, with some questions, what I'm saying, something, that's basically corresponding with the timeline that's taking place right now. So we're gonna get into, let me see, we got some super chats. All
right. Somebody asked about the government buyback program for the old money. The banks have to collapse first.
Hold on, let me fix your Cash App real quick. Yeah. There we go. So everybody, what I'm saying, the chat, what I'm saying, show, what I'm saying, the master teacher, show him some veneration.
Master tutor.
I heard that.
Now the kind of master teacher. Ain't nobody put out that much information.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, you don't want on the land right now. That's why I said you gotta be one. We gotta be on some book.
As long as he breathing, can't nobody hold the title master teacher.
You said what?
As long as he breathing, can't nobody hold his title. He own that shit.
Yeah, we gotta, what I'm saying.
I'm cool with being a tutor.
Okay.
Because all I'm doing is just rehashing what all of the teachers before me taught. Pointing out hey, did y'all notice this part of it? Let me show you what it means. Right? So that's all we doing. Tutoring the public on what we already learned.
Yeah, but you add more pieces to the puzzle, though. You know what I'm saying? Because it's kind of like it's more updated information because a lot of people don't even understand what's going on right now.
That's for the foundation that the ones before us laid.
Oh, yeah. Salute the new diamonds in the chat.
Thank you, sweetie.
Okay. So this is what it says from Cool and So 88. If they broke the treaty, why would we go back to honoring the treaty?
That's the only treaty that they ever said we broke.
Mm-hmm.
All of the ones they broke, we still honored them, trying to get out of the 200-year oppression. There was a ceasefire, but they still was using cheat codes like assassinations and murder. They weren't supposed to do that. And we wasn't supposed to do it to them. We were supposed to educate ourselves above the condition. If once you educate yourself above the condition can no longer hold you captive. And there was only a handful of us in the last, since Noble Drew Ali, that was really lifting the consciousness that wasn't in it for selfish gain. Everybody that was in it for selfish gain set us back. It was too many greedy SOBs in the game for us to really get somebody who didn't care to sell us out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like your money don't mean nothing to me when I know that the value of my birthright is way greater than any money you can offer me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care about your money. I appreciate, people who send their donation and everything, but I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this to unlock our birthright. And only by following the oral tradition of the greatest of the tribes, putting the information in the public domain so that as many tribes people as possible can access the information and utilize the information to wake each other up. Right? Then we doing our part. But there's so many people that they do stuff for money.
Mm-hmm.
So money is their motivator.
Mm-hmm.
And when money is your motivator, you can be bought.
Mm-hmm.
But when love is your motivator, it ain't enough money to buy the real love. You can only buy fake love with money.
That's a fact.
And that have a life limit to it. Ask any divorced athlete, NFL, NBA, buying love, it's got a lifespan. When you buy love, it can only last for so long before it fall apart naturally because it's not true.
Shit, and that's why in 2025, you know, the vast majority of relationships, they only last for 30 damn minutes. You know, because it's built on, you know, material order. That's why I keep telling people, man, if you don't have a mental connection, because the mental connection in itself, that's how you combat the negative forces right there. Neo, he wasn't able to escape the matrix until he had a divine feminine energy on his team. So it has to be a balance of energies. So that's why I keep telling people, man, like, that's the only way, you know what I'm saying, to beat the system in itself is, you know, going through
now,
that.
here go the kicker. Since you brought Neo and Trinity up, she a female. They named her Trinity, but they named Neo, which is an anagram for one, an anagram for eon, the age. So in order for Trinity to be Trinity, she got to be the rightful heir.
Right.
And now, what does she have to do in order to get her throne? She have to find her champion. So Big Mama got to find her son that's doing the work, that got all of the skills. Nobody's using them. He's just sitting on the bench. She going to draft him to her team, and he going to start in the game. Then you go in there and you tell him what you know. Right? So Morpheus, which is the dual name, Morpheus is the god of dreams. Orpheus is the god of dreams. Morpheus is the god of transformation. Morpheus is Orpheus with an M on the front. Orpheus can't be Morpheus without Mama because he can't get the M.
That's a fact.
So he can't go from Orpheus the dreamer to Morpheus the mystic without Mama saying, okay, baby, it's your turn. Get out there and do your thing. Then he go from Orpheus to Morpheus.
Because the M is actually a 3, but it also represents Trinity.
Right. Yeah. It's a 3 on his side. But the 3 is the M on his side, actually.
Yeah. So,
right, because the M has always been the symbol for the mother, which is also the Masonic symbol of the apron. And we know that men don't wear aprons.
That's a fact. And you know what's crazy?
We know all these cross-dressing priests.
Man. And you know what's crazy though? I'm glad you brought up that 3, because at 3 it corresponds with the mind in itself, which is connected to the neocortex. So that, you know what I'm saying? Like they throw all them damn symbols in that movie for a reason.
Well, you know, you got 3 parts to the brain. You got the reptilian the brain, the old mammal brain, and the new mammal brain.
Yeah.
The new mammal brain is called what? The neocortex.
Yeah.
The new cortex. And Neo is the one.
So that means that you have to master your animalistic self.
Sacco Mao, your monkey man.
Hey, you know what's crazy? What if you was looking, if the movie Matrix had an equation, it would actually be the pi equation, wouldn't it? 3.14, because 3, Trinity, 1 represents the life force that you have to resurrect it in order to tap into those, what they call the Ark of the Covenant, the pituitary, hypothalamus, pineal gland, tachyon energy. And then the 4 represents that balance, that foundation. So like I said, like all of it, you know, pretty much corresponds, but people just got to look at the numerical sequence and how it lines up with prophecy.
And to tie into what you just said, the 3.14 being pi, which is the man standing on his post. You can see the perimeters of the circle, right?
Oh, okay.
And the 3 sisters flip, because the point means flip, one man in order to make a 4-corner shuffle. That's so the genetic equation is 3x flip 1y to 4 x's. Somebody discovered an unknown variable. So the 4 represents the 4-corner shuffle, which is the genetic shuffle, the moving around of the DNA on the 4 corners of the X chromosome. The Y chromosome will fit in any one of them as an unknown variable until it's been activated as an X-Man.
And you know what's crazy? I'm glad you brought that up, because that 4-corner shuffle can also correspond with the fire horse, which is the great purification symbol, which we're talking about the red horseman, because the 4 horsemen is a representation of the 4 basic elements which corresponds with the one. The one actually is a representation of the quintessence that collaborates with those four basic elements. So that's when you get the what we call the Christ energy. So I'm actually breaking it down, the numerical sequence of pi backwards, because it actually tells you the whole story. The four horsemen, the one that reaches the Trinity principle within the Christ energy within yourself, which is a form of mind science technology.
Okay, now let's take it to the streets and how it applies to the tribes.
Okay.
The four represents the Vice Lord Nation, whose original colors was black and gold. But when they alliance under the five, they also wear red.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's the unification of the Peace Stone Nation and the Vice Lord Nation that comes across as the four corner shuffle or the four corner hustle.
Yeah.
Then you have the four horses of the apocalypse you brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which also is a whole nother thing, because it started off with the white horse being where? You remember about 5 years ago where the white horse was at? In photographs?
Beyonce.
Nope, not Beyonce. You remember Lauren London and Nipsey Hussle?
Yep.
Where did the white horse end up at? They just gave it to the Pope.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, now everybody keep calling the white horse the pale horse, and they're not the same horse.
Exactly.
The pale horse carries death, but the one on the white horse, the one on the white horse went about conquering and to conquer, and was given to power to conquer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then what did the black horse came with? The scales in one hand and the food in the other hand, the wheats and whey. Right. So it's balance on one hand to feed the people on the other hand. Now the black horse comes back again at the end. It's only one of them that comes back at the end. Because while the other three horses, the red horse was given the power to start war and to wage war. That's Angel Bay, who just so happened to be in the hospital right now. Everybody sent positive energy. Chief Malik Angel Bay, Jeff Ford, who passed out at ADX, and they rushed him to the hospital. We don't know anything about his condition. We're waiting to hear from either the Bureau of Prisons or his family to give us any updates. So we don't have no updates on him, and we concerned because he ain't supposed to even be there.
Mm-hmm.
Political prisoner. He was the red horse.
Mm.
The blue horse, Lucifer, is not in the book. The question is why?
Yeah, why is that? Why is it? What's the word on that?
And so that means that the blue horse is something that came about after the Bible concepts was developed.
Mm-hmm.
So it came about as a different concept. The blue horse, if you got a red horse, the blue horse is going to automatically be next to it. Mm-hmm. That's a Big Tookie, the blue horse, right? But the blue horse was put on ice. They froze Big Tookie in Area 51, right? So this is where the color blue, ice, Cricket Man walking lightning, the Shocker, Wes Craven.
The 80s movie Shocker. My dad had me watching that shit. Man, my dad had me watching some crazy movies, bro.
Yeah. So the Shocker is, Big Tookie is the Shocker because everybody presumed that the government put him to death.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he becomes the Shocker. The movie The Shocker was written by Wes Craven. Mm-hmm. It's a code there. Wes C. Raven. The Raven brings us to the Crow. Brandon Lee. Remember the Crow?
Yep.
Right. So the Raven is the actual bird that is calling the Crow in the movie The Crow. Mm-hmm. The Raven is the one who brings the message from the dead to the living, but also brings the one presumed to be dead back to life. Mm. So when you say the West, you're talking about It's the T missing. The T represents the cross, the sacrificed one.
Wow.
So who is missing? Big Tookie, because they sacrificed him. But they didn't really sacrifice him. They treated him like the Christ, like it say in the book of Barnabas and in the Quran. They thought they had slain him, but surely they slain him not, for it was only made to appear as if he was slain. We didn't forget about that part.
How you find that's what I'm trying to figure out. How'd you find that out? Like, that's crazy.
It's in the codes. It's in the tribal codes. Wind talkers.
Yeah, I understand that because everybody can't do that. Like, because I don't know what that is, because that's something you cannot find in the book. And that's one of the mechanisms that's missing out of, you know what I'm saying, as far as like the conscious community when they want to, you know, cross over to certain information to, you know, just to be that anchor in that glitch. Because a lot of people, they will look over stuff like this because it's not inside of textbooks and all this other stuff, and it's not coinciding with, you know, the grassroots of, you know, consciousness. So a lot of people, how you did that I don't know what that's like I said, that's some ninth dimensional shit right there. So
the Wes Craven, who froze Tookie, who gave the order?
I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when Tookie came to California, when Schwarzenegger came to California to be a bodybuilder, he had to get the rub from Tookie.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a weightlifting contest and the pose down. And Tookie's response was, this vanilla gorilla walked right up to me for a seat at the table. So he said, I don't need you now, but I'm going to need you in the future. Mm-hmm. When I need you, you just got to perform. Right? Nobody know about this agreement between them. Because you couldn't perform in anything dealing with iron in California in that era, and you don't have the rub from Big Tookie. Mm. He either gave you a rub or a left bump. A left bump was hostile. I mean, he punched you in the mouth. Mm. The rub mean that we had a friendly competition, and I acknowledge you now. Right? So the reason we knew that that Schwarzenegger was the one who put him on ice is because the next role after that Schwarzenegger got was Mr. Freeze on Batman.
Mm. Wow. And he played in Terminator 2, and Terminator, that's also, I think it begins in 2027, I believe.
Well, it goes back to 1984, if you remember. When he first meets Sarah Connor, he go back in time to 1984. Notice the year.
Oh, damn, that's crazy. Yo, hey, this is great. That's too many alignments, bro. I told you the answers is in the movies, man. I keep telling people that.
Okay, now somebody else was advocating for Big Tookie from the Red House. Mm-hmm. And they had to be flipped or tagged by Schwarzenegger. Mr. Freeze was smoking a cigar.
Yep.
Looking like a big blue Tookie. I mean, looking like a big blue Suge Knight sitting on his chair, the Death Row throne. Mm-hmm. The head of the face under the hood of Death Row Records is Big Tookie. Mm-hmm. The chief that woke up the Red House when he woke up the Blue House. So he carried the weight of both worlds on his shoulders. Mm. So now, if the Blood Nation realized they was a federally recognized tribe, and most of us don't know that the Blood Nation is a federally recognized tribe, and they got some interlopers masquerading as them on the Blood tribe land in Canada. Mm.
Hey, you be cracking them codes, bro. I got. That's where the codes be in the damn.
Okay, now, me and Elder did a show where we talked about West Coast tribes because we still use the epithet, right? That referred to what the tribe referred to the other tribe. Blood still called Crips crabs.
Yep.
If you find out the crabbing tribe from the area, you get the name of the actual tribe that was renamed Crips. But Crip was renamed because it's a community revolution in progress, right? And they was the ones looking inland. The Bloods was the ones looking to the sea. Brothers looking out on darkness. What happens after sunset when the sun finally drop over the horizon of the ocean in the West Coast? It get extra dark. So now you got your coastal tribes who's supposed to be guarding from the seaside in the red house, your red crab. And then you have your inland tribe that's supposed to be looking from inland at hostile tribes coming across the land. The reason why they was woke up was because of police brutality. The Panthers woke them up. They the ones injected the consciousness of resistance against a foreign occupying military force because we're supposed to be our own military. The government infiltrated all sets. We call them sets. They call them battalions. And then they turned them against each other. So now you got Marines fighting Rangers, Navy SEALs fighting paratroopers. And they're not supposed to be fighting each other. They're supposed to be fighting the enemy.
That's a fact.
But the enemy came across with the uniform systems that makes them look legitimate because they wear uniforms. Right? And then they put the code in the commercials. And they gave us the uniform commercial code. They trying to convince us the police are freeing.
Exactly.
And they keep killing us. And they don't tell you about the pale faces they kill like they tell you about the dark faces they kill. These people are foreign military. They don't care what your skin color is. They will blast your ass in the streets. Period. They foreign occupying force.
We're gonna get into this Big 13. He says, is there a connection between the blood moon of March 14th this year on Pi Day?
That's 3.14 blood moon. The blood moon is always representative of a menstrual moon, even though they be giving them other names like cherry moon, which is also symbolic of the yoni, breaking the virginity, breaking the cherry, right? Then they also got a couple other names. They give strawberry moon, which is when the woman's about to end her menstrual cycle and she's not bleeding as heavy and the red is lighter. All of it is tied back to the female. So if 3.14 is pi and the moon is red on pi, right? So we're talking about a cherry pie, which is talking about an heir, right? We know that it's talking about an heir because when George Washington chopped down the cherry tree, that's that girl he raped. And they got the statue of George Washington and some lady dragging a little girl behind him. Over there, one of them East Coast states, Virginia, DC, somewhere over there. But it's a whole statue showing you who the cherry tree was. But it's always two cherries on the tree. They come in pairs. That's red house lingo. Right? So we go back to the rabbit. The rabbit is also another symbol of an heir. But when you call a rabbit an heir, you call him a hare.
Facts. That's crazy.
Now, I'm finna give you one for the before we get close to the end to look up.
Okay.
In the symbolism in the design and layout of DC, there's a dog sniffing a rabbit.
Want me to pull that up now?
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
DC dog sniff rabbit. It's right in the city layout. The dog sniffing the rabbit.
All right, hold on. Get this going. DC layout. All right, you can put up some bullshit. Hold on.
Put in DC topography.
All right. Okay.
Of dog sniffing rabbit. You know, I shared this on my Facebook already like 5 years ago.
Okay.
I might have to send it to you.
Let me see. DC. Yo, man. Let's see. A-line. See if I can pull up. All right. Kind of something like this.
I'm just gonna send it to you.
All right. Nah, that ain't. Cause I bet, I showed where they was breaking off the West Wing on the ballroom where they built an underground military bunker system, and it shows you the disconnection of the sacred geometry pattern that took place in DC when I'm gonna show you. Yeah, it basically broke down. It basically eradicated this whole energy that was controlling this geographical area right here. So yeah, that's when you get in geomancy and stuff. You send it to me already?
I gotta find it right quick.
Okay. I'll wait till you get it. I'll answer a question while you're looking for that. So it says 33 and 1/3 of Masons learn what they. I mean, some people believe that they only have 3 degrees.
That's the blue house, 3 degrees.
Yep.
32 degrees is the red house, Scottish Rite. The 3 degrees is inner apprentice, fellow craft master mason on the blue house. When you got higher degrees, you got to switch over to the red house. But the blue house ain't supposed to enter the red house unless you got a certain bloodline.
And that's where Donald Trump comes in. He playing both sides.
Yeah, because he's a Templar.
Damn, I had a slide in here about the Templars too. Man, something told me to put it in there because it coincides with the Baphomet. Because a lot of people don't understand where the inception of the Knights of Templars came from. A lot of them they came from Islamic background as far as like the veneration of Baphomet, or it comes from Baphomet, that's connected to the energy of the moon, what we call the sleep spell of Kingu. Because I think the 5 power structures is connected to the 5-pointed star that shows you the sigil schism over Washington, D.C. The 5-pointed star, it represents the 5 power structures of the European Union.
Hold on, I think I might have it. Nope, that ain't it.
What was those of us whose mothers, Nana, favorite color of blue? I'm not sure what you mean by that one. Because I don't. What you think?
What about those of us whose mother's mother has a favorite color of blue? She's the daddy's girl. The blue girl, when they say a girl that's from the blue house, she a daddy's girl. Red house is a mama's girl.
Wow. Let me see.
And I can't find this picture. Trying to figure another way to look it up.
BDELL, do you think the powers that were casting hold on to the land? No, because I was talking about as far as like you having a resurrection process of the mycelial network of nature. Everything is getting activated. So I tell people all the time, you know, our genetics is actually a microcosm of, you know, what's taking place, you know, politically, what's taking place neurologically, what's taking place on a geopolitical scale. So as far as like, you know, the powers in itself, like what me and Rod talk about, you know, the subjugation aspects of it, it goes into the silver key, which is the silver cord, which is the silver key in Freemasonry when you're talking about the keys of papacy, because that's the only way to unlock the liquid intelligence, which is the epigenetic memory, to unlock the Akashic records. So like I said, it's one of those things where the shadow work is going to be the catalyst to unlock the caps on the neurons in the brain to where you're able to pull information out from the subconscious mind. So a lot of people want their powers and shit like that, but you're not going to be able to tap into that energy unless you heal. They even show you in all the, you know, the great majority of the superhero movies, they all go through that self-realization period, and then that's when they tap into their power.
I never had this hard return fan or something. And I know I got posted. I'm gonna find it and send it to you. You're gonna do an update.
Okay, I got you. Oh yeah, and now I not too long ago, it's probably like 2 videos ago, I was talking about Max B getting released from jail on 11/9, which is a mirror flip for 9/11. Now, only reason, you know, this coincides with like Leviathan and the Dragon, because maybe about 2 months ago, they had a 7.2 earthquake at the Arctic Peninsula in the Drake Passage. In the Drake Passage, Drake, the rapper, he's actually really good friends with French Montana, who was actually, you know, best friends with Max B. So if them two collab together, that's a ritual that's taking place at hand when you're talking about the that Mountain Dew conspiracy, because the Mountain Dew conspiracy can, it shows you Liberty Chill, and it shows you the geomagnetic storm that's taking place on how the Statue of Liberty is underground and it's covered in ice and water. So like I said, Max B, he represents the wave, which is a form of a tsunami, and Drake is dropping an album called Iceman. So like I said, it's one of those things where I forgot to add the aspect of the dragon. They said that the reason why that they had an earthquake at the Drake Passage, because they said that the head of Leviathan is in the Arctic region that's causing of what I call the El Nino non-weather, where you have the waters from the east collaborate with the waters from the west, which is a form of purification and judgment. So that's where you get into that Leviathan, because some people in the esoterics, they believe Leviathan is also the emulation of the black sun also.
The Leviathan force is also a military occupational force that have bases all around the world in what they call serpentine fashion, right? And it's called the Leviathan force, which is symbolized by the serpent wrapped around the egg. Remember that symbol?
Yeah.
Okay, now, Earth has what's called ley lines. Ley lines converge at what's called energy centers. We have always used the ley lines and the energy centers because we know that they go through cycles where this ley line might get the most energy for 1,000 years. So we're going to build on this one for the next 1,000 years. After time that went by so much, we all over the place now because the ley lines have moved. But this energy current is called the dragon's path or the dragon's way. And it represents the movement of the Earth's energy around the planet, right? When we showed earlier the connected Pacific, right? Where all those islands converge, that's a dragon path. All the way from the tip of South America, coming up the west side of South America, going into Mexico on the west coast, up to California, Oregon, and Washington into Alaska. That's a dragon line. And that dragon line is marked by volcanoes. This is why they get the name dragon line, dragon path, dragon way, because normally when the energy moves through them, it generates volcanic activity. Even if they don't always erupt, that we know that the energy now is activated on this particular ley line or pathway.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see it come up like the ring of fire in the northeast.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When that dragon wakes up, it sets off that ring of fire all the way around the North Atlantic going into Europe, back down going into North Africa. Right? So these are dragon paths, as we call them. We use the term dragon. Anything that represents mastery is a dragon, because you have to slay the dragon to master any topic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the one who's at the top seat, he is the dragon now. Right? He's the one speak with the fire of an open throat chakra and a synchronized root chakra. And if he really good, he have a full chakra activation from the root to the crown. And when he speaks as the dragon, it's more effective in waking more people up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those were your Nagas kings. When the culture changed, we went from being dragons to eagles and hawks. We went from being eagles and hawks to being elephants and lions. We had different things that represent mastery at different times. And the dragon came from the Nagas lines, who came from another energy signature tied to the Draco's constellation, where they actually was raising and trading and taming dragons.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that we call dinosaurs. The Inky bred dinosaurs for the Andromeda beings to hunt as part of a galactic treaty. And when they time ran up, what they do? Blew this motherfucker up all over. Nuclear winter, get rid of them. Mm-hmm. But we still got dinosaurs, but we don't call them dinosaurs no more. We don't call them dragons no more. Now we call them crocodilians.
Komodo dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you got mini dragons. They got one that's actually spits some stuff like fire in South America.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but he only that long, so we ain't scared of him.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't big enough to burn the building down.
It's like a little bird. It fly. It's like a little bird entity. Like,
it's a lizard.
Yeah, but it was able to. I think it had like wings or something.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I haven't seen I haven't looked at it in a long time to give you all of the details. But I do know that it's there, and it do spit fire or fiery secretions from his mouth. They burn.
Mm-hmm. Hey, how you talked about that Iberian lynx that popped up?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it popped up the same day where 3-Eye Atlas was right behind the sun that created the Hyperion. And that Hyperion is what was the precursor to all those geomagnetic, storms and everything that was taking place, as far as like, all these plasma vortexes opening up from the magnetosphere.
I was more taken back that it was an Iberian sphinx or lynx.
You said, excuse me?
I was more taken back that it was an Iberian lynx. The lynx is a North American cat.
Yeah, it was a white one that showed up the same day that the.
Where's the Iberian Peninsula at?
I'm not sure where they located it.
That's Spain.
Yeah, it was in Spain. Yes, it was in Spain.
And that's why I said the lynx is normally a North American cat.
Okay.
And I've been trying to have some kind of like, where is this going with this? But I know they call ghost animals when they born out with albinism like that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, it's so rare that when you see them, you know there's something spectacular going on spiritually. Like the white giraffes they had.
Mm-hmm.
The white buffalo.
Yeah, they say lucidic animals is also a representation of the end, because it's the end of that biological entity's genetic format. So as far as like, you ever read the book what is it called? Fuck, it's a Hebrew Israelite book, but it goes into like Levitical law and the book of Leviticus and how they talk about how leprosy in itself is a representation of the ending of a cycle. And when you see that takes place, when you're talking about like totem animals or whatever, it's a representation of the fact that the cosmic energy grid, the fifth dimension, merging in with the third dimension of what we call new heaven and the new earth. So that it kind of goes into that. So they say when a lot of animals, albino animals, pop up, a lot of times it's seen as an omen in indigenous cultures.
So what they describing is called genetic genetic deterioration. It's entropy in the genome. Okay, now over a period of time, the Earth, with human resonance in the sun, has to reset the genetics of all of the species on the planet. Certain animals is going to be upgraded, and then they're going to start taking on a human form. They won't be born to that species of animal anymore. They'll go extinct. But the spirit that was dwelling in that animal now is going to be upgraded to sentient being, and now they can take on the physiology of a human. This is all metaphysical folklore. I don't know. I do know that the Earth has to upgrade our genetics. This is in too many ancient records. I know that it's done through the blast of the Schumann resonance up on the receipt of a major solar burst, a solar storm.
Right, solar flash.
Right. So when you study in genetics and what causes genetics to suddenly change is blasts of radiation. It don't change on its own. They got to get this blast of radiation. Well, the program comes from scan the genome of all species, find all genetic defects. This is a mitochondrial function that only the women do. So every woman that ever gave birth to a defective child was doing so in order to record the anomaly for correction in later children. If there's nobody recording the anomaly, it can't get corrected because nobody know it exists. But as soon as it become known to exist, she has a record in her biology of what the defect is and what caused it. So she'll be giving birth to children, or somebody in her family will be giving birth to children that has the genetic makeup or recovery program for that defect. And this is Y chromosome, this is X chromosome, both other chromosomes are being scanned by mitochondria for defects. The majority of the defects comes from the Y chromosome having a deficient amount of genetic material to properly transfer a full genome script to the female that's receiving the child. And if we don't straighten up as men, they're going to correct us out of existence and make us become real rare again. Because it used to be a time where men were rare. This is why polygamy came about. Men are more populous now on the earth than at any time in the history of the world. And it's going to be the correcting of the genome. When that blast come off from the Schumann resonance, that's the Atlas Shrugged. That's how she shake off the parasites.
I like how you put that. That's great. We're gonna get into one more question. Raz terms. He says, "What does Rod think about Benjamin Banneker?"
The easiest way to say it is traitor, but he can't be a traitor. He a foreigner. He didn't come over here for us. He came over here for them. They give him a credit with writing the first almanac, but they didn't tell you how he got the information.
Right.
They didn't tell you that he was going across the land talking to the different chiefs to compile that almanac. He didn't have the information. They did. He just asked them the questions and they gave him the answers and he compiled it. They also give him credit for building the first clock in America. He didn't build the first clock in America. What he did was he trapped us in a time block, in a time frame. He was one of the informants that told them about how to use the blood magic to subjugate a large mass of people. So, I mean, I don't really have a lot to say about him. His fez is in the George Washington Masonic Memorial. Is one of the dirty Moors that came over here to take over.
That's a fact.
And if that ain't enough for you, then I don't know what it is, because you can go look in the George Washington Fez Memorial and you see Benjamin Banneker's fez in there when they took the fezes off the Moors and the moccasins off the chiefs. Or what they call sandals.
That's in Philly, right?
It's in Virginia.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say that's exactly where they stopped that penny circulation at.
Yeah, the penny is tied to the printing of the money, which was constitutionally given to Congress, and Congress ended up supposed to been through the Treasury. Congress print and coin money, but then they contracted with the Federal Reserve out of the bankruptcy, the second bankruptcy, I think it was, that was before the 33 bankruptcy. The second bankruptcy was like 1901. But that's when they made the contract between the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury that the Federal Reserve will print the fiat currency, and the U.S. Treasury will just hold on to assets. This is like a repository of tribal assets. The Treasury has never been used in the history of America to finance any government. It's just been collecting money. But everything has been being done through the legal fiction in the Federal Reserve System for the foreigners, using their monopoly money in the place of our real money.
I seen you yawning and stuff. Make sure that, Master Tudor, what I'm saying, get his rest. But he says, Rod and Bill, what is your take on the Honorable Minister Farrakhan meeting with the FOI Black Men Only yesterday at Moscow, Maran, in Chicago?
He's preparing for something. Minister don't just haphazardly call meetings. And I would need to know more, because I'm surprised I'm just not hearing about it. But when he called that meeting, did he call all of the ministers, or did he just only call the FOI and the commanders? It depends. If he only called the military, that means they finna start being prepared for something real big. If he called the ministers, then he was informing them on the direction that the messages need to take for the next however many months till he called the next meeting.
And you know what's crazy? Because I just recently heard that my girl, she had said something about the SWAT is preparing for something big.
The who is?
SWAT. She knows somebody, as far as like through her yoga stuff. Somebody had mentioned something about SWAT is supposed to be, they're preparing for something.
Spell that.
SWAT.
Oh, SWAT. In what city?
Yeah. SWAT. The SWAT team, they're preparing for something. She think the woman's her young boy, he works out of town in big city, and he works for SWAT. And she said that they like preparing for something.
Remember, I told you, everybody that's like SWAT teams are probably going to be commandeered by National Guard. Because they got specialists there. And they could be using to take the police out. Like the SWAT is like a local militia. And they normally be manned by active law enforcement from different fields based on specialty. Right? So when the National Guard is on alert, SWAT has to be on alert. period. The only way they don't be on alert if they are police and there's no sheriff deputies on there, there's no alternative law enforcement on there. Then they gonna be considered as a foreign military occupying the land.
Mm-hmm.
But if they have other law enforcement in their SWAT team, then that way they will be able to be absorbed into a functional, legal law enforcement community. We don't need all this shit. We don't need this shit because people over here keeping us broke, keeping us struggling, keeping us suffering. We didn't used to need prisons.
Facts.
You pay for your dirt on the spot right now. You didn't all that old lock you up for 5-10 years. No, he gonna pay for his dirt. If you was stealing, you gonna work for free.
Facts.
Until the debt is paid off. And the debt gotta be reasonable based on the crime. You can't let a person work 50 years for a candy bar. Right. It's not gonna happen.
Exactly.
But that's the kind of stuff they was doing to us in order to... The 14th Amendment is the biggest illusion that was ever played on us.
Yep, fraudulent contract never ratified.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, it got two kind of citizens in there, which is contradictory to each other. Mm-hmm. And it gives an excuse to the slaveholders to hold slaves. Mm-hmm. Buy you a plot of land, build you a private prison, and we'll keep you full with all the slaves you can muster. We didn't need that. We didn't need none of that. Mm-hmm. The remedy for the crime is solved real quick. Mm-hmm. Start seeing people walking around with no hands for stealing, then you understand why stealing stopped.
Right. That's a fact.
When you see grown men walking around as eunuchs, then you're going to see sexual assault stop. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. But now, in this era, you can't eat half the stuff they call sexual assault is not sexual assault.
Mm-hmm. Salute to Tommy in the chat. Salute to Tommy. Salute to Tommy Truthful. But yeah, man, Rod, I appreciate you chopping it up with me tonight, man. We went through the rabbit hole. We touched in on a little bit of everything. Because that's what I like to do. I don't kind of stay fixated on the political stuff. Because everything, you know what I'm saying, as far as the information, it all corresponds. So that's why, you know what I'm saying, that I'm glad to tackle this information with you. And salute to you and keep doing your thing, man. And
hey, look, they don't even know that when we talk to each other on the phone, this is the kind of conversations we have anyway.
Facts. That's what I say.
We just let them eavesdrop in on the phone call.
We be going down on rabbit holes because, like I said, man, them codes, man, they be coming in and I see the algorithm. I used to think it was something wrong with me a long time ago. I'd be like, how is that lining up? And I'll be like, man, I'm thinking about some bullshit. But, you know, now everything kind of makes sense right now. So, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, salute to you, brother. Salute to everybody in the chat. And that's pretty much all we got for you guys tonight, man. And I appreciate you.
For sure, man. I had a blast, man.
No problem.
We do it again in due time.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. But but salute to everybody in the chat. We finna cut on out. End of transmission.